for one to send to Adam. They had a vote at their church today, and they didn't get the vote. And makes me want to slap somebody, but all is well. I needed that song, even though I don't believe it. So you pray for Adam as he decides what to do. I told him, come on over here. I said, we'll vote you in. You can take my place as long as I keep my paycheck. I'm okay. I'm okay sharing the work. 2 Samuel 15 in your Bibles. We're going to be in the book of Acts also, but we're going to look at the story in 2 Samuel 15. I probably shouldn't have said anything about Adam. Now your mind's going to be off of where you should be, but you all have complete control. You can think clearly, and God knows what's going on. But he and I spent some time on the phone this afternoon. 2 Samuel chapter 15, and we're going to look at a story here in the midst of the reign of King David. Now understand, leaders are frail, just like followers are. Leaders make mistakes. You young people, your parents are going to make mistakes. You employed people, your boss is going to make mistakes. Your church members here, your pastor's not going to make any mistakes. We are what we are. You're married, and your spouse is going to make mistakes. And don't fall apart because the one you're working with or working under is not perfect. That's just life. And we'll talk a little bit about that in here. But David, for all of his heart for God, there were weaknesses like there are in your lives and like there is in my life. And David had made a very poor decision going back a few years, 5 years or so. He had a bad situation with a son, Amnon, who ended up raping a half-sister, Tamar. And David didn't do anything discipline-wise about it, and that's not the sermon, but that's what started it. And David was a little soft. Sometimes the most loving people have a problem with strength, and Tamar's full brother Absalom just really had a problem with that, which he should have, and everybody should have. And Absalom patiently waited till he had a time when he get all the brothers over to his house, and he killed Amnon, which is what David should have done. And so now Absalom was estranged from his father David. He leaves the country, and he's gone for 3 years. And Joab knows that David's heart is toward his son, and so Joab arranges through some conniving, because Joab doesn't really care what anybody thinks. He always does what he thinks right, and he was right a lot of the time, but not all the time. And so Joab gets Absalom back united with David, but David's still kind of mad. And so he's 2 years in Jerusalem, but they didn't even see each other. And so now there's been 3 years away and 2 years together, and Absalom was able to nurture bitterness. And one of the reasons you need to correct the situation and solve it and have it done is because if you don't deal with it, bitterness sits there and it stews. It's like, who likes cabbage? I know some of you do, but you have depraved taste buds. But you throw cabbage in a crock pot with a roast and let it sit there about 8 hours. That roast will fix the bad taste in that cabbage and make it taste good. You throw in potatoes and carrots and cabbage and a good roast. You don't even have to eat the roast, just the fat off it. That's the best part. And then the vegetables. And that stewing is what was going on in Absalom's heart. And he got pretty bitter toward his dad, and some things happened. We're coming in chapter 15. And Absalom basically is setting up a rebellion where he's going to have his father killed and take over the kingdom. Let's stand for a moment as we read the scripture. And again, if you wouldn't mind having your phones off, that would help us. 2 Samuel 15. And it came to pass after this that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses and 50 men to run before him. Remember, he's the king's son, royalty, had a lot of resources. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man had a controversy, came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, Of what city art thou? And he said, Thy servant is of one of the tribes of Israel, just wherever he was from. And Absalom said to him, See, thy matters are good and right, but there is no man deputed or no officer over your area of the king to hear thee. Absalom said, moreover, oh, that I were made judge in the land. I didn't say king. He used the word judge, but Absalom had an agenda going. Oh, that I were made judge in the land, that every man which hath any suit or cause might come unto me, and I would do him justice. And Absalom spent years working this thing and working his way into the heart of the people and undercutting the leadership of a good man who'd made a wrong decision. And tragedy followed. If you turn over to chapter 18, he does lead a rebellion, and David leaves town. David's not going to fight his son in a big battle. Chapter 18, down at verse 14, just wraps the story up. Then Joab said, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took him 3 darts in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom. And while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. That long-haired Absalom got his hair caught in a tree. Another reason you guys shouldn't have long hair. And besides the fact God said it's shameful for a man to have long hair. Joab, who had brought Absalom back to David, now kills Absalom because he was after his king. And let's pray. Father, help us as we look today, and help our hearts be opened. Help my thoughts and my spirit to be right, Lord. These are emotional thoughts to me, and we would sure like it to be right. And I'd ask for help from heaven that your Holy Spirit might be our teacher, please. In Jesus' name, amen. You can be seated. Now, the story has got a lot of things in here. Could I just say to you that are leaders, bosses, or parents, or Sunday school, especially in the youth department where you're around each other. Let me give you 3 quick thoughts. You know what Absalom did? Number 1, Absalom mentioned his care. Every time someone came, he said, oh, you got a good cause. He just showed that he cared. And it's important, I think, and this has nothing to do with the sermon, but the good leadership principles here. I think it's important you communicate. Caring is not enough. That person needs to know you care. And in a world of texting and telephones and letters and emails, it is not that hard to communicate our care for people. I think that's what, with our college students. I try to get us to sponsor college students of missionaries, and to try and get all of our own college students looked after now and then. People need to know that you care. Secondly, he had touch with them. The leader needs to have some kind of personal touch, and go to that person's workstation or stop by where that person's working and make sure they're doing okay and check up on them. And sometimes we can get so busy with the work we forget about the workers who are getting the work done. And that personal contact, actually physically being there. And then third, everybody needs to have their cause addressed. And I think sometimes we make mistakes disciplining or correcting or whatever without someone being heard. Now, a lot of times the person who wants to be heard has nothing to say, but let them say it anyway. A lot of times what they have to say is complete nonsense, and they have no logic behind it. But that I'm stupid does not mean I don't want to be heard still. And just because I'm an idiot doesn't mean I don't have a heart. I have a stupid heart maybe, but that to be heard, to have some kind of attention, to have some personal contact, and to be heard, those are 3 things that Absalom used to win the hearts of the men of the land. To care about their circumstances, so very important. Now, Absalom obviously was undercutting the leader. He was disloyal, and I don't know if there's anything more corrupt than disloyalty. It's as deceitful a thing as you can possibly have, and I'm passionate about this matter of loyalty. There's a lot of things that mean a lot to me, but loyalty is right up toward the top of the list. If I'm talking to you, I will tell you. If you're the husband, I'll back you to your wife. I'll back you to your children. And even though you may be completely wrong, I'll back you because you're the leader in that home, and I'm not. I'm the leader here, but I'm not the leader in your home. I'm not the leader in your place of business. I'm going to back you. I'm going to back the police, although sometimes they may be wrong. But I am so strong in this matter of loyalty, and disloyalty to me is one of the most corrupt and vile things, because you are taking something that you didn't build. You are going into a situation and you are doing a detrimental deed to something that's not yours. If you built your own house, burn it down. But don't come burn down my house. That's my house. I built that house, and leave my house alone. And if this is a ministry, I don't go down the street. If I knock on doors and I meet some Catholic, I don't say, you know, your priest is an idiot and your church is full of a bunch of stupid, Bible, brainless people. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to hurt those people. I want to get them saved. But I'm not here to destroy them. And loyalty, to disloyalty, when you go in and you are undercutting someone else's area, you're hurting that which is not yours to hurt. But secondly, you're going into an area acting as if you know what should be done there when it's not even your area. It's not my area. I'm not there. That's why I'll be loyal to my followers. Yes, I'm the leader, and I have a complete right to say or do any number of things, but you know what? They're there. I walk into Miss Ryan's classroom. She knows those kids. She loves those kids. She spends every single day of the school year with those kids. And for me to walk in and just like that think I know what needs to be done, that's really arrogance. To think that I could take my background and go into a situation unknown to me and that I could influence it in a negative way and undercut her leadership in her classroom, that's really stupid. And loyalty is, there's so much to be said about loyalty. Now, this evening I want to talk about the greatest work or basically unified sinners, the greatest work that you can do, or how to get your work to be a greater work. And it is not by you not making any mistakes. It's by you being on the team. Over in the book of Acts, if you want to look there, Acts chapter 1, I'm going to show you 5 quick verses, maybe 6, maybe 10 verses. Maybe it's just 5 verses in the book of Acts. Acts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts chapter 1 and verse 14. The word, you've heard it over and over. Acts chapter 1, verse 14. These all continued with one accord in prayer and supplication with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brethren. The book of Acts begins. That great church building, turning the world upside down movement started with these words, one accord. They were of one accord. Chapter 2, if you want to look over a page or two, to Acts chapter 2 and verse 1. And again, very familiar, Acts chapter 2 verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And the idea that those disciples in that early church, understand this, they were being chased, they were being persecuted, they were being killed, their properties are being taken, but there's one thing was settled, we're on the same team. We're not hurting each other, we're not tearing down each other. Chapter 2, verse 46, and they continuing daily with one accord in the temple, in breaking of bread from house to house, and on and on. They were in one accord every day. They stayed on the same team. Acts chapter 4. Turn over another page there. Acts chapter 4 and verse 24. Acts chapter 4 and verse 24. It says, and when they heard that, they lifted up their voice to God with one accord. Remember, they went into the temple, the beautiful gate. The gates are all named around Jerusalem. And they were at the beautiful gate, and they healed the guy, and they got in big trouble, and they were arrested and beaten and chased off. And they got together with the believers, and the Christians gathered together for a prayer meeting, and with one accord lifted up their voice to God. In chapter 5, just one more. And chapter 5 and verse 12, and by the hands of the apostles were many signs and wonders wrought among the people, and they were all with one accord in Solomon's porch. Now, God doesn't repeat himself accidentally. I hope you get used to using a concordance as you read your Bible. I was looking at a word the other day, and I can't even tell you what the word was, but I knew it was in 1 John. It was a significant thought in 1 John. So I looked it up, and I noticed in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, that word was used about a dozen times, and it wasn't used at all in the book of Hebrews, wasn't used hardly at all in the Gospels. You know what? In the book 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, there's a principle being taught, and so what you need to do is draw back and look at that word and think, these books are going to teach me about this word. To study to show thyself approved unto God. Don't just mindlessly read your Bible. And repetition is one of the ways God teaches us, because we're pretty stupid, and he repeats something over and over and over and over, and you think, oh, maybe God wants me to think about being in one accord. Yeah, the church started with a bunch of people who were in one accord. And right there, what we have is two manners of people. We've got Absalom, who was sounding suave and religious and caring, but he was as corrupt and satanic as he could be. And we got a bunch of people who were of one accord. They were on the same team. They were unified in purpose. Now you need to understand that that is how you can decide between evil and between good. That's how you can decide between the carnal and the spiritual. If I come in, and you at your jobs, you could do this. In your home, you could do this. You have one person get in there trying to sow a critical spirit, a critical attitude. Someone who comes along and doesn't believe these things and doesn't think the boss or the manager or the foreman is doing things right. One person causes an awful lot of grief. Let me tell you something. If I were in business paying you and you were critical of me, I would fire you. Now, I'd have to go find a lawyer to figure out how to do it without being sued. But I'd find a way. And here you are being paid by your boss, and then you're causing him grief because you think you know better. You're so rotten to do that. There's no way. My kid's on a ball team. I am going to back the coach. I just am. You know why? Because those boys need to know unity and teamwork more than they need my brilliance. Now, am I brilliant? Absolutely. As the parent of any child playing sports is. But the kid doesn't need your brilliance as much as they need teamwork. As much as they need loyalty, as much as they need obedience, as much as they need to submit themselves to the leaders put over them. Because one of the greatest lessons you can learn in life that a kid can learn on a ball team is to say, I will trust the coach when he doesn't make any sense. And everybody who's played sports knows there are times the coach makes no sense at all, like when you're on the bench. Obviously, my child is the best athlete out there. Why is he on the bench? Now, I've been doing this a long time. I've preached this since I started the church. But 40 years into the ministry, those who cause division are one of two types of people. They are innocently simple. Simple's not a bad word. Simple means not a lot of experience. They've not seen a lot. You put a young person that just got their driver's license in a formula race car. They're not bad. They're just not ready for that much horsepower. You put me driving a fire truck, right, Dan? Do you drive trucks ever? Are they different than my car? I figured as much. Now, I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad driver. I'm simple, inexperienced. The word simple means without a lot of folds, without all the experience that bundles you up, makes you able to do all these things. I can shoot a lot of guns, but I guarantee you Brett Amity back there could put guns in my hand. I got no clue what to do with. It's just a reality. I'm not stupid. I'm inexperienced at it. Now, two kinds of people. The one kind of person, the ones who are sowing discord, they're simple. They're innocent. They don't understand it, but they're still doing the same evil. They just don't realize it because they've listened to the wrong people. They've followed the wrong leader. There is another one that is completely evil. And their desire is intentionally, on purpose, to go in and to divide and to separate and to cause grief. And either one is terrible. That innocent one mistakenly causes wrong, and the other one intentionally causes wrong. I've watched it too long. I've watched it as parents get involved in their children's marriage. And I've got two married kids sitting in the room tonight, and I'll tell you, when they walked down the aisle, I was done. Brother Beal said that, with too much happiness. Yes, out of here. I was done. I guarantee you, probably the closest thing I've said to my kids, because both the ones here work for me, is the same thing I'd say to anybody else that works for me. You guard your time with God, you guard your marriage, you guard your children, and I don't want you working so many hours you hurt your home on my account. Don't you do that. They've heard that from me over and over and over. But that rebuke I would give to Caleb Beal, who's not my son, or to Josh Goddard, who is my son, because I happen to love those people who are around me. I'd say it to you that don't work here at the church. But look, I'm done. You know why? Because when we give away the bride, when a couple is married, that's their world now. But you know what? If you're not careful, moms and dads, we can get in there and we can sow discord. One of the greatest stories. You want to hear a great mother-in-law? Melvin Meister, he was the dean of men when I was in Bible college. He was a Marine and married young, married dumb, and he just, great Marine, bad husband. And he married this young lady, and they had some knockdown drag-outs in the early months of their marriage, and they lived across town from her house, and she just packed her stuff up, grabbed a bag full of things, and took off. Middle of the night, went over to her parents' house, didn't have a key to the house, and she knocked on the door. Her mom came to the door, and Mrs. Meister told me that. She said, my mom opened the door, looked at me, and said, "You have a new home," and closed the door. Brother Meister says, "I love my mother-in-law." Because it's none of her business. And you're thinking all kinds of things. You can think all you want, but I'm going to be loyal to those people who have look, my next door neighbor deserves me to stay out of their business. The great things God has done are not done by people who are perfect. God does great things with sinners. And we get this arrogance that we step back and we think, this is a wrong microphone. I don't even know how to turn this one on. We'll forget that one. This one works. We step back and we look at a situation and we think we know better than them. We're watching this thing and we just know better. And these people may think they know better, but we do know better. That's called disloyalty. It's very dangerous to step into that world. And again, I've watched it for years. You back your husbands, ladies. You get on board with your home. And men, when your wife's there without you, you back your wife. You be on the same team. Don't you divide yourselves toward your children. My kids are not going to hear me be critical of my wife. They're not going to hear her be critical of me. We are a team raising children. And you cannot be disloyal to your spouse. And ultimately, the husband's responsible to God. The ultimate responsibility lies with him, so it all ought to back up to him. But the fact is, I'll be loyal to my staff. I'll be loyal to my volunteer staff. I'm going to back those people under me in the ministry, and I'm going to, with all my power, be loyal. And we ought to do that in our homes. Again, great things God has done, he did with people who are sinners, not people that are perfect. In the book of Acts back there, where they're of one accord. Remember, they're the ones who argued over the widows getting fed enough? Remember, they're the ones, Paul and Barnabas got in a fuss? Remember, they're the ones where Ananias and Sapphira lied about their giving and God killed them? Remember, they're the ones that had wrong doctrine coming into the church and saying you got to keep the law to be saved? Those were not perfect people, but I'll tell you what they were. They were in one accord. And the arrogance of someone to come in and find their little pet peeve area and think, well, this needs to be done just like I think it needs to be done, that is the height of stupid and evil and danger to the whole thing. We're crazy. Let me just say right off, I have never met a critic whose children turned out. Never. You that have children at home still, let me say it again. I have never, I'm not new, I'm not as old as a lot of people in this room. Steve Sandberg, for one. I think he's 3 months older than me. I don't know. But I guarantee you, in 40 years of ministry, I have never seen a critic's children turn out for God. Never had. I'm not saying it never did happen, but it's never happened in an area of our ministry in 40 years. Never. So who is it God's going to bless? As far as I know, every church God ever used, every youth department God ever used, every Sunday school God ever used, every husband and wife God ever used, they had one thing in common: sinners. Oh, my husband works so many hours. Well, trade with the one who griped at me out last hour who says my husband doesn't work enough. Who's to decide what's enough hours? Well, the wife, of course. You see how foolish that is? I never forget one of our dear ladies. She's in heaven. I'd call her name, but her family still goes to our church. She's a great lady, great soul winner, great Christian. She came up to me early on. I mentioned husband's leadership in the home. She said, Pastor, I don't know if you really think a wife ought to submit herself to her husband. I said, I really do. She said, well, what if he's wrong? I said, well, wrong in whose opinion? And she just looked at me, and then she turned around and walked away. Stayed in our church another 20 years and went to heaven and stayed married to the same man the next 20 years. See, in the book of Acts, you've got plenty of fussing going on, yet those people turned the world upside down. I'm not saying we're never going to differ or bump into each other because of our pettiness. You know, you're going to park in the wrong place, and I'm going to think, you're not a senior citizen. What are you doing parking over there? That's not going to mess the church up. You're just selfish, and I'm godlike. That's not disloyal. That's just human nature. You know what? Why did they pick her to sing? She can't even sing. Yeah, there's all kinds of dumb things that go on. It's not disloyalty. It's just the way we are. But when a group of God-fearing people get together and love God and serve God, the end is God's blessing. It is. It's just a fact. They were of one accord. In Genesis chapter 11, verse 6, most of you know the verse. They're at the Tower of Babel, and it says that the people are one. Now they have one language, and all that this they begin to do. Now nothing shall be restrained from them, which they've imagined to do. The only reason nothing will be restrained from them is one thing. The people are one. They have one language. They were a unified people. They were locked together with one purpose. And by the way, it was the wrong purpose. But unity still works. Amos chapter 3 says, can two walk together except they be agreed? This building that we're in, by the way, the new building we're going to put up. Everybody, we're going to put it up, right? This new building we're going to put up. You know, there's a dozen different ideas. We were just framing this building up. Now remember, if you weren't here, the side wings were here. And then it was just an 8-foot roof, and this middle was all kinds of small rooms, doctor's offices in here. And so we gutted the middle because those are structural walls, and they couldn't go down. And we made Sunday school rooms and a big room here. It was the cheapest way we get a room that would seat 400 people, which really it doesn't, unless they're very little people. And if we were all Filipinos, we get 600 or 800 in here. But Americans are a little touchy about their personal space and their girth. But besides that, we're just framing this up. Dr. Howells, our pastor, comes, he was preaching for us in the tent out here, and he walks through, he says, I don't like it. I've been 9.5 years in a tent. I really don't care what you like. I did not say that. He said, I don't like it. I said, what do you not like? He said, it's too small. I said, I don't know what else to do. I said, if you have any extra money, we could make it bigger. And then he changed the subject. This new building, there's a dozen different buildings we could put up. We could put up different types of buildings, different sizes of buildings. But you know what? We just need to be unified. We need a building. We just need to stay on track and get us a building up. There's all kinds of, our young people go to camp. People say, why do you go to that camp? It's just a camp. Get over it. Oh, we go to that camp. Good. Well, how come you don't? Because we go to this one. Well, I think our camp's better. Isn't that wonderful? It don't matter. You think, do people really talk like that? You don't even know. There's all kinds of camps. You know what matters? Go to camp, make it run, preach the word of God, teach kids to live for God, make sure all your leaders are lockstep together of one accord. There's all kinds of Sunday school curriculum. Someone comes along, and one of our dearest godly senior citizens came and said, Pastor, our grandkids are involved in this great program for children. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I let him tell me about it. I said, isn't that great? She said, well, don't you want to use it? I said, no. Well, why not? Because we're using this. But this is so good. I'm glad it's so good. And maybe someday we'll change. I'll look at it. And I did look at it. And it was good, but it wasn't all that good. I said, this is what's worked. How many young people from that church have gone into the ministry? How many, and again, I don't know if it's the curriculum. See, understand this. The product of Faith Baptist Church is a product of all of Faith Baptist Church. And I can't tell you which part's the key. So really right now, as long as I'm breathing, we're changing nothing. Because I don't know where the magic lies, if you've heard Brother Howes say that. Brother Howes told us there are things in his church he really didn't like at all. But he was afraid to change any of it, for fear he'd mess up the blessing. There's Bible colleges all across the country. And this is Goddard and I were talking to a young man on the shuttle come back from the airport. Good-looking young guy, mid-20s, and got talking to him a little bit, and I told him I was a pastor, and he said, oh, that's awesome. He said, I'm doing this and this, and I'm hoping to go to the Western Baptist. I think it's a college. I think it's a conservative Baptist or GRB school up in Portland. And he said, I'm going to do this and try to get there. He said, I'd like to start a church one day. And man, we just said, that is incredible. What a blessing. I didn't know anybody that would attend Western Baptist would even know how to win a soul, let alone start a church. But you know what? I was 100% on that boy's team. I said, man, my wife said 35 years ago, we planted a church, and I told him a little bit what we did. He said, whoa, that's incredible. And we gave him a tract and said, look, call me. I said, anything I can do to help you. You need just to chat over ideas. I am so encouraged you're doing that. Well, he's going to school I would never send anyone to. But you know what? I'm for him. If he's going to win a soul and start a church, praise God. Now, are we going to send our young people to work under his leadership? No, we're just too different. But he's a good guy. And my thought is, go where somebody believes like you believe. There's all kinds of Bible colleges. We have a couple that we send our young people to. Some might say, well, why don't you send your kids here? Because we can't send them everywhere. We're trying to send them somewhere where we will be in one accord. My goal is that our young people will grow up here, go to Bible college, and hear the same thing in that Bible college, so the college and the mom and dad and the pastor are in one accord. Why? Because one accord gets blessed. Understand this, being in one accord is blessed, being divided is not blessed. It's a biblical principle. It's what our church has been built on. If you knew the mess I was when we started this church, you wouldn't believe God blessed it like he did. If you knew the mess that I am today, you wouldn't believe how good God has been to this church. You see, if somebody's got another direction, then go that direction. Run with that crowd. Look over to Matthew chapter 12. And again, some of these thoughts you've heard before, but you're going to hear them again. Satan has the same quiver full of arrows he uses over and over and over. And what's amazing to me is how many so-called preachers use satanic arrows. Matthew chapter 12. How many preachers and reverends will use satanic arrows to hurt other churches? I can't believe it. I wouldn't hurt a Calvary Chapel. I wouldn't hurt an Assembly of God church. Now, I'm not them. They're not me. We're different. The list of differences is too long to even remember all of them. I wouldn't hurt them. Paul says, I rejoice that Christ is preached. We're not going to support them. We're not going to have a joint rock concert. We're not sending our kids to their activities. They're good people, I'm sure. The ones I know are. But you know what? I can pray for them better if they're there and we're here. Matthew chapter 12. They're accusing Jesus of doing what he did in the power of Satan. Matthew 12, look down at verse 24. But when the Pharisees heard it, what Jesus had done as far as casting out demons and healing the blind and all, they said in verse 24, this fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. They said he has power over the devil because he's a devil himself. Jesus, in verse 25, and this passage is repeated 3 different times in the Gospels, he said, every kingdom divided against itself. Boy, there's words you ought to have in your Bible. Every. Every. That word needs to be marked. God did not accidentally put the word every in there. He put it because he meant every. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. We've got the word kingdom. That's a pretty broad term. You could apply it to our church. You could apply it to your business. You could apply it to anything else you want that's an organism like that. And then he says every city. That's a political thing. You want to mess up our country, just cause a bunch of division like so many liberals are. Or every house. Let division get in your home. Let dad and mom start being critical and cutting and undercutting and disloyal to one another. And he says, you will come, you'll not stand. And in the book of Luke, he says they're going to come to desolation. Division ruins a church. Division ruins a family. Division ruins a nation. Division ruins people groups. We can't afford to live like that. That's why these people that hate our president, they can't. How do you criticize the lowest unemployment rate in history for minorities? How do you criticize the stock market being where it is? How do you criticize the economy? How do you criticize businesses coming back to America providing jobs? Well, you can't criticize that, so you know what you do? You just cause division. That is a satanic thing. We have, for the first time in a long time, a president who's pro-life. I had somebody criticize him to me the other day, a person I respect, and so I was very respectful. I said, I know one thing. He's not for killing babies. And anybody who's for killing babies doesn't have enough brains to be in any political office. They don't deserve a job as a dog catcher. And I'm not going to be ugly to people I respect, but you know what? You're wrong. We got a guy who's pro-life and pro-gun and pro-Bible and pro-America and puts Billy Graham in the rotunda for 24 hours. And show me the last president who had that much respect for the things that you and I value. So I don't like the way he tweets. We'll quit reading them. I don't like the way he combs his hair. But I didn't elect him for his hairdo or for his tweeter. What's wrong with us? We let people divided. Well, what's he think he's doing with the president of North Korea? I could care less if he pokes him in the nose. He'll cause a war. That country's so small, any group of our military could squash it and annihilate it. We just send a couple of dozen Marines over there and they'll take the whole country out. I'm not saying we should take out North Korea. I'm just telling you, it's not a real worry on my list. I'm worried about division. That's what I'm worried about. And the devil knows good and well how to ruin a country. The fact is, division is cursed by God. Those who sow division, look over at Proverbs chapter 6 with me. Proverbs chapter 6. Those who sow division are hated by God. Boy, no one likes this verse unless you're a Bible believer. Proverbs chapter 6. See, if you don't like something, find another job, but don't sow division at work. Find another country to live in, but don't sow division in your country. If you don't like the church you're going to, find another church, but don't sow division in your church. I've had people from other churches ask me my opinion about various things. I say, where do you go to church? If they're saved, starting with that. And if they're not saved, I'll do my best to get them saved. Then we'll sort it out. But if they're saved, you know what? I'm not going to sow division between a pastor and his church member. Absolutely will not do it. Because God says, look at Proverbs chapter 6. You look down there. I forgot where I had you turn. But somewhere here in Proverbs chapter 6, these 6 things doth the Lord hate. He hates some things. Look at verse 16. These 6 things doth the Lord hate. God hates some things. Yea, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look. Now that is a symbolic sort of a thing. A lying tongue. The symbolism of people who talk bad. Hands that shed innocent blood. These are all just figurative sorts of things. Verse 18, a heart that devises wicked imagination. Now, God still hates these things, but they're kind of, it's hate the sin, but love the sinner. But look on a little bit further, verse 19, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among the brethren. He, notice that personal pronoun he. God hates he. God hates the hands that shed innocent blood, but God hates he that sows discord among the brethren. God hates the person who causes division. God hates it. God hates it. Now you may think God didn't hate anything. Well, you haven't read your Bible very much. There's a heap of hating in the Bible if you'd read it. If you don't like our ministry, then go to another church. I don't ever get mad at anybody joins another church. We've got some of the finest members of other churches come out of this church. You know why? Because our church taught them to witness and to teach the Bible and to go soul winning and to live holy and be loyal. They're the greatest members in other churches. We've got people who've helped build churches. There are churches, if they lost all of our former members, they wouldn't have a church. Say, does it bother you? Nope. I'm for them. I'm 100% for them. Look over to, still in Proverbs, right? Look over a page. Look at Proverbs chapter 9. I love this. Isn't the Bible a great book? Isn't it great it's only 20 to 8? Proverbs, look over at Proverbs chapter 9. Proverbs chapter 9 and look down at verse 8. See, scorners and critics are so bad, God says don't even try to correct them. You can't correct them. Proverbs 9:8. Proverbs chapter 9 verse 8. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. If you rebuke, come out stinking. You smell like them. You're not a bunch of pastors, so I won't go any further than that. Look over to Proverbs 13. Proverbs 13. Don't even try to correct the disloyal, the scorner. Proverbs chapter 13. Look at Proverbs 13, verse 1. A wise son heareth his father's instruction. Again, wisdom will cause you to listen. Wisdom will cause you to hear. But a scorner heareth not rebuke. Well, Proverbs chapter, same thing. A scorner won't listen. They won't hear. That's what our university campuses are like today. The big thing now in the universities is if you bring any conservative idea to a campus, they will shout you down because they cannot intelligently argue with you. Because the Bible and the Constitution wipe out everything that's going on in our university campuses. That's why if you end up at a university, live at home, stay in your church, stay on your bus route, sing in a choir, teach a Sunday school, make home, sneak into that college, grab whatever you can get, and get out of that place so you don't stink like them. Definitely do not move into the dorms. Proverbs chapter 15. Proverbs chapter 15, look down at verse 12. Proverbs 15, verse 12, a scorner loveth not one that reprove him, neither will he go unto the wise. So a scorner doesn't love somebody that rebukes them. And here's what happens. I've got this scorning, critical spirit, and I come like Absalom to George Hargis up here, and I say, well, you know, George, that pastor. You know what I'm saying to him? See, a scorner won't go to the wise. Have you ever noticed how many scorners will never go to the leader? So you know what I'm saying to you, George? I think you're a fool. You know what? I think George Hargis is fool enough to listen to me. And some of you gals, can I just say the nursery ought to be a time for prayer and caring for babies and praying for the services and praying for the parents of these kids and praying for those children. Don't you let nursery get to be a gossip session. So you think it goes on? I have no idea. I'm not going to that nursery. There's dirty diapers in there. You guard that nursery that doesn't become a place where you share. If you find somebody being critical in there, you go tell Miss Chandra, who oversees the nursery, and they'll find themselves off the list. And don't you all do it to get off the list. You bunch of conniving women, I know. So, way to get off the list. One critical word, we're out of here. No, we're going to put you in there alone. That's what we'll do. We'll put you in there alone where you can't infect those little babies because they don't know anything yet. What do you do with the scorner and the slander and the critic? Look at chapter 22. There's only one thing you can do with the scorner and the slander and the disloyal and the critic. Proverbs 22, look down at verse 10. Cast out the scorner. Only one thing you can do, toss them out. Cast out the scorner. Just Proverbs chapter 22, look at verse 10. Cast out the scorner and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. Some of you at your homes, you notice your child's little fussy and little contentious and little divisive. Find out who they've got as a friend lately. Just get rid of that friend. Just cut them off. And by the way, my wife, I trust my wife in this. Women, I'm not saying they're psychic. I'm not saying they're witches or anything like that. But my wife knows she'll say, you know what, I don't think that's a good friend. I'm going to trust her. I work a lot of hours. My wife's got a sense. She's around those kids an awful lot more, and she sees things. And if she says, you know, I'm not real comfortable with that friend, then we're not going to, all right, you can't play with that kid anymore because they're bad. That's really mean. Because then they're not playing, and the kid comes and says, why won't you play with me? Because my mom says you're bad. Well, that kid tells their parent. Now that parent's mad at this parent. Just create buffers and slowly drift your children elsewhere. You can do it. You can do that. Because you're not going to help that other child by having your kid pick on that other child. Just start arranging life so there's a distance. Could I say this in behalf of the youth workers? Brother Josh, could you make sure my daughter doesn't hang around that other girl anymore? He's not the kid cop. Miss Carly, you're a Sunday school teacher. Would you watch the girls and make sure that they don't talk to that girl because she's a bad girl? We can't do that. You're the mama and you're the daddy. You run the show. All we're here is to polish what you are making at home. Don't blame us. How about this? You don't have time to look at it. Psalms 101 verse 5. Whoso privily or privately slandereth his neighbor, him will I cut off. That's a good verse. That doesn't mean kill them. It means we're gonna sever relationships with them. Proverbs 10:18. He that hideth hatred with lying lips, and he that uttereth a slander is a fool. Look over to Proverbs 16 with me. Go back a couple pages to Proverbs chapter 16. Proverbs ought to be read every day. Especially the first, when you're young, like the first 20 years of your Christianity. I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of times I've read the book of Proverbs. This book is to know wisdom, to discern, to perceive the words of understanding, to understand, to perceive, and to discern. This book will help you see and know things. Proverbs 16, Proverbs chapter 16. There are people, their only goal is to make others look bad somehow. Proverbs 16, look down at verse 27. It says that an ungodly man diggeth up evil. Sounds like a reporter. And in his lips there is a burning fire. Look at verse 28. A forward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separateth chief friends. That bad person's the one that they dig up some information and they use that one little tidbit. Doesn't it sound like a political meeting? But I'll tell you, it's churches. Because see, the devil has the same arsenal. He used it in Washington, D.C. He uses it at your workplace, and uses it at Faith Baptist Church. He uses it at the church up the road. Satan hates the work of God, and he hates anything that's good and holy and right. And Satan will find somebody who will dig up some little tidbit, and that'll be their pet peeve. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but don't go to sleep on me. We're going to end like the fireworks. I prayed earnestly that I would not storm too much today. I was going to cloud up and rain, but like a Midwest thunderstorm. But it'd be better to be a California misty. Because I think we've got some simple people who don't mean anything wrong. But if it gets worse, I will bring you lightning and thunder. 1 Corinthians 12:25 says that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. It's Proverbs 12:25. You know, when there's a schism in the body, it shows somebody doesn't love somebody. That boy or girl who ride the bus whose dad drinks beer every day of the week, be very careful what you say about people who drink liquor. We're not going to justify liquor. We're going to say drinking liquor is wrong. But you can buffer it with, by the way, my natural father was a good father to me. Didn't go to church, but he taught me to fish, taught me to hunt, taught me to work on my bikes, taught me to work for a living. All of his kids from both marriages had jobs, paid their bills, stayed out of trouble with the law. Yeah, there was more booze than there should have been. But I'll tell you, I think he was a better dad than some Christian dads I know. Never cussed the kids, never was abusive toward us. That there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. We're supposed to love one another. You know, last night I ran into Heath McMahon at the grocery store, and he's been here since he was like, what, 4, Heath, or something like that. How could I not love him? But how could I not love his parents? His sisters, they're all right. You know, I walked out to my truck after seeing him thinking, I love the people God has put in my life. We can't hurt them. And some little thing or some big thing, if it's a big thing, then work somewhere else or live somewhere else. Homes have sinners in them. Jobs have sinners in them. Churches have sinners in them. And I would never justify wrong, but I'm never going to attack, certainly not going to attack differences. I know one guy so pro-bus ministry. If your church didn't have a bus ministry, he would scold you. What's wrong with you? Don't you love God? Don't you love souls? How come you don't run buses? That isn't his church. None of his business. Just being very candid, it's just among us. No one will hear this, obviously. It's going on the internet and the world will hear it. But I don't understand why a pastor can have a church and not have youth activities. Do they not love teenagers? I don't get it. How do you have a church and not have teenagers? They're the easiest people in the world. The teenagers love to do things. Just say, hey, we're all going to do something. Oh, good, we'll go. They ask their parents, can I do something with the preacher? What are you going to do? I don't know. And we started running activities at our church. In the first month or 2 of our church, our first activity was with 2 teenage girls, an 8th grader and a senior in high school. We've been running activities ever since. What's wrong with you? You know what? That church is none of my business. I have my hands full just keeping this church right. Churches are going to have different ministries, different opinions. So let's just make a few points real quick before I get to the sermon. The pastor's going to fail you. The pastor's going to make bad calls. But in 35 years here, our Sunday schools have put hundreds of people into Bible college, into the ministry, and into successful secular jobs. Hundreds and hundreds who are still in church active. Everybody? No, not everybody, but hundreds. A statistic that is unheard of. Numbers so high of young people who've chosen to do right. And I'll tell you, it's not because me and Brother Beal are so sweet. Our ministry started over, our church has started over a dozen different churches in America, and I don't even know how many churches we've helped start in other countries. Are there weaknesses here? Yeah, I imagine there's a few. But I guarantee you they're not weakness in the preaching. They're not weakness in the Sunday school. They're not weakness in the bus ministry. They're not weakness in the soul winning. They're not weakness in the nursery. Is it a perfect place? Absolutely not. But I'll tell you what, I will stand for every single thing we do. This happened because we were on the same page. You bring division into our ministry, and I will cloud up and rain on you. And let me just say this. From the teen choir, to the youth activities, to the nursery, to the Christian school. I don't care if everybody puts their kids in the Christian school, but don't you undercut our Christian school ministry. Our Christian schools put more people in the ministry than all the homeschoolers in the county put together. I'm not anti-homeschool. In fact, Brother Trieber had a great idea of starting a ministry to homeschoolers. I'd love to do that. I'm not anti-homeschool. I'm not going to sit and undercut our public school system. Today we didn't have very many because of the change of time and the weather, but we'll have on a Sunday 50 teenagers go to public schools. I can't destroy those kids' school. That's their school. I'm going to be loyal to those kids and loyal to the kids that are in homeschool and loyal to the kids who go to other Christian schools. I encourage some people, hey, you know what, that school might be a good fit for your kid. Loyalty is blessed by God. Our Sunday school, the preaching, the altar calls, the music, the whole thing. God hates the division that gets sown by stupid people. When someone slyly tells you that they've got this superior view, what they are is Absalom saying, man, if I was in charge here, well, you ought to be smelling sulfur and seeing little red horns poking out. Let me tell you some weaknesses in our church. If you want to be critical, let me just give you some things. We don't visit the widows and shut-ins enough. So, critic, why don't you help us and go visit some widows? Well, I got my little area. Well, who cares about your area? It's not even in the Bible. But pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction. So if somebody wants to be critical, do you say, hey, when's the last time you visited a widow? I'll tell you another weakness in our church. We don't go soul winning enough. Now, we do go soul winning on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Saturday, and we're in jails on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and we're in rest homes on Saturday and Sunday. But besides those 9 times a week, we don't go enough. Next time you have a critical comment, how about you show up Tuesday and we'll go soul winning together? Do we have some weaknesses? Yeah. 30% of our people tithe. Next time anybody has a critical comment, ask them if they tithe. Because you know what, if they don't tithe, it's easy in the Bible. Their little pukey area of criticism is not important. Their division that they're showing. See, the blessings of God come on people who just join together and do the work. Want to know another area of weakness? Men's prayer. Somebody brings you some divisive comment, say, hey, when's the last time you were at a men's prayer meeting? Because if I had this room with 5 groups of 10 men praying on Wednesday morning and Saturday night, we could pray those critics out and let them go over to Calvary Chapel. You want to be critical? Let's be critical of real things. Why in the world do I have 6 men show up for prayer on Saturday night? I guess they're all working. If there's anything in our church you don't like, I'd suggest you find another one or shut up. If you don't like me, there are lots of other pastors. And you have the advantage, there are days I don't like me. And I'm stuck with me. You'll do more harm fighting your wife or your husband than you ever will accepting a little compromise that she doesn't put enough milk in the scrambled eggs. And personally, water makes them fluffier than milk anyway. Let me call 2 names tonight. I've got a tract in my office written by Rick Warren, the purpose-driven idiot. In that tract, it says how to take over a church and turn it into a purpose-driven church. I mean, he just says it flat out. It's an instructional tract how to take his philosophies and take over a church and control it. And he goes step by step, how to do this, and he says, now, once you've done this, there's a chance some of the old people are not going to want to change. And he said, just starve them out. Don't be nice to them. Don't spend time with them. They'll quit coming. He said, or just wait till they die. So that's the pastor of the biggest church in Southern California. That's disloyal beyond words. See, he's not man enough to go start his own church. You know why we start churches? Because we believe starting church is the way to do it. You don't think I could have sent 50 people over to Emmanuel Baptist to join Emmanuel Baptist and vote Adam in as pastor? Like that. Could have done it. I believe in the autonomy of the church. That God set up independent bodies. We'll talk about that some on Wednesday nights. There's another guy, Steve Anderson. Steve Anderson's a Baptist, sort of. He won't be long because no one with obscure, weird views who's always chasing something new so he could be a spectacle can ever stay real straight. See, once you start getting your name by being really out there, you have to keep being out there. You know what Bruce Goddard is? King James Bible, loving people, youth activities, soul winning, bus ministry, preaching, old-fashioned hymns. What else are we? Oh, youth activities, Sunday school, senior citizen activities, bus ministry, soul winning. You know what? I don't need to compete because you didn't come because I was something spectacular. But when somebody comes because, wow, did you hear this really amazing thing? Pretty soon he's going to be talking about astronauts and spacemen. But I don't care. It's his business. But he tells people, if you can't find a church that believes like me, he said, join a good church and start pulling people. He's satanic. Proverbs 6 says, God hates he that sows discord among the brethren. So you shouldn't call names. It's only 2. How many times have you been at prayer meeting this week? God hates that kind of thing. Let's do this. Let's work at financing our buildings, financing our parking lot. Let's build our Sunday schools. Let's build our bus routes. Let's keep witnessing. Let's keep passing out tracts. And somebody says, well, you just don't know about what's sin. You find any pastor in this valley stronger on sin than me. Look, I don't want to give out all the secrets, but if you go to the movies, you can't teach Sunday school for us. You drink a beer, you lose your Sunday school class. You smoke a cigarette, you lose your Sunday school class. There's no one's going to have standards. I don't ever accuse us of not having high standards. We have security cameras and wandering security, and we have a place where holiness is lifted up. And we're going to keep it that way. But if somebody down the street wants a beer drinker teaching Sunday school, that's their business. Many years ago, a couple of our ladies was witnessing to a guy, and he taught Sunday school at Cornerstone, and he wasn't saved. He said, I don't believe the Bible. I just love kids, and they gave me the curriculum, and I teach it. I just love teaching kids. He wasn't even saved. Now, you know what? That is their business. If they don't need Christians teaching it, I called another name. Oh, my goodness. It's been a long day. I lost an hour of sleep last night. I am not at all talking about justifying sin. I'm talking about disloyalty. If my mom puts asparagus on the plate, if my wife puts asparagus on the plate, I'm going to tell the kids, your mom knows what's best for you. And you know what? I got a call to make. I'm not going to criticize her asparagus, but I'm leaving the room. Oh, Mr. Beal, I got to take this call. You kids eat the asparagus. Dad will be back after he goes to McDonald's. When I say disloyalty, I don't mean liquor and drugs. I don't mean immorality. I'm talking about we're going to be on the team. We're going to be on the team. Now, don't start acting like we're not sinners, but don't start acting like we can undercut each other's lives in ministries. Because God will curse this place. What will bless Faith Baptist Church in the years to come is when it's soul winning time, then we go soul winning. And you may not be able to go, but you know what? You can say, man, I love that my church is a soul winning church. You may not be able to get to a prayer meeting, but man, love that we have prayer meetings. Love that we have Sunday school. Love that we have a bus meeting. You can't do it all. I can't do it. I don't drive a Sunday school bus. Brother Victor took my license years ago when I hit something. I'm not disloyal. I think you all get a driver's license, unless you drive like I do. I'll be loyal to the mom and dads. I'll be loyal to the husbands and wives. I'll be loyal to the colleges. Something happens with one of our college students, I'll say, why don't we talk to the college leadership? Last summer, Josiah, my youngest, he's spent much of the summer in Trinidad, and he called me up, I don't know when it was, April or so, 6-8 weeks of school year left, and he said, Dad, I think I'm going to spend the summer in Trinidad and Guyana. And I thought, he'd been to the Philippines for 10 days. And in case you don't know, 4 months in a foreign country is a lot longer than 10 days. And I thought, I don't know if he's ready for that. But he's paying his own way to college. He's 19 years old. I said, well, son, why don't you go to the guy in charge of missions at the college and get his opinion? I'm going to push him to his leaders. And thank God for good leaders. They said, maybe you ought to cut it back to 4 to 6 weeks. And he went 6 weeks, and he was fine. He loved it. In fact, the guy he was with came and caught me this last week at the conference, and he said, Josiah he's much older. He's a master's student, already graduated with his master's degree, and he'd been down there several times. He said, I wonder how Josiah do. He said, he spent 6 weeks solid down. He said, I never heard a complaint. I said, and which son was this? My Josiah? Or was there another Josiah down there with you? Let's loyalty. I'm not going to defend sin, never will. Let me explain something. On my staff, Matt Peterson's home with a sick baby. But if Matt was in a car with one of the Riley girls, he just lost his job. I mean, just in the car, didn't touch him, just picked him up. The other day, Kathy Bailey was walking back. We live right around the corner from the Baileys, and she was up by Stater Brothers, and she was just walking. I don't know why she's walking. They got a car, but I pulled over, rolled the window down. I said, do you need a ride? No, I wasn't going to give her a ride. I was going to give her my car, and I was going to walk. I'm not picking up a lady. No way. I have high standards. Guy holds if any physical contact, any impropriety, you can't work for me. Now, I'm not going to, what you do is up to you. I don't think it's sinful for you to get in the car with somebody you're not married to, but if you work for me, it's still not sinful. You just can't work for me. I'm not going to get burned in this matter of morals in my staff, not unless you got to really be a sneak to get away with it. We're going to have a holy church, but we will be loyal because God blesses that. All right, let's pray. Father, help us and guide us. These are delicate subjects, but every husband and wife ought to be on the same team.